The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Tuesday, June 20th, 2017. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, I'd like to thank our patrons and all of our supporters. Everyone who supports the show, watches the show, shares, likes, or subscribes. Thank you so much for being a supporter of the Benjamin Dixon Show. I, again, want to let you know that I will be taking 2 weeks off starting next week. 2-week vacation, so to speak, partial vacation. We're going to leave the show in good hands with some of the members of the Progressive Army. But while I'm away, I will be doing exclusive patrons-only hour-long podcast each night. No video, just podcast, just me talking into the microphone, talking about the issues. And if you want to get access to those podcasts, go to patreon.com/the BPD show. A lot happening in the news. I want to start with the race, Georgia 06. I'm trying to get these live results as we go. The last look that I saw had the race extremely close with Jon Ossoff with 51% and Karen Handel at 49%. And just previous, like 5 minutes before I looked, it was flipped. Karen Handel had 51% and Jon Ossoff had 49%. And so it's going to be a very close race. We'll give you updates as we get it. This is the most expensive House race in American history. Some estimates of nearly $50 million being spent on this single seat. Right now, at the moment, just got an update. The latest results, 51% for Karen Handel, 48% for Jon Ossoff. And so this has been an expensive race, very expensive. The Democratic Party has poured a lot of money into the 6th district, and it's important to them that they flip it because it's been in the hands of the Republican Party for almost 40 years. And in the midst of them this is also, again, this was held, as we said last night, this was a seat that was held by former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. And most recently it was held by Tom Price, who has now moved into the Trump administration. But I just want to give you some numbers to show you what's been spent. Ossoff, his campaign directly spent $14.2 million on airtime at air and radio advertisements. And he spent another $8 million on other costs. Karen Handel spent $2.5 million on TV, radio, and cable spots, and $1 million on other expenses. But that's just the beginning. Combined with the candidates and outside groups, they spent a total of $29.7 million on advertisements, on television advertisements alone. And this was to replace, again, Secretary of Human Services, Tom Price, to replace his seat. This is just $29.7 million on television ads alone. This is a slush fund. This is a Christmas holiday for the local news stations. Politico is reporting that Atlanta NBC station had to bump reruns of the Andy Griffith Show so that they can extend the news broadcast so that they can put advertisements for the campaign up. In other words, they booked the entire slot of available spaces for radio for television advertising, because that's how much money was being spent in this race. They booked everything that was available, and the only way they can make other things available is by getting rid of the Andy Griffith Show. And you know, old people, they don't get to watch Andy Griffith. That's a problem. But the money was so much. And here's another take from Politico saying that Jon Ossoff had so much money in his campaign that he was able to run Korean radio ads and offer free Lyft rides to voters on primary day. That's a lot of money. we'll get into the criticisms of whether or not this was, let's start here. This is not a scalable model. It's not. This is not going to be, you can't replicate this across the country. Every win for the Democratic Party cannot come at a cost of $23 million. It can't. It's just not tenable. It's not tenable. You can't get that many donations, and you can't spread it across all the congressional seats. That's one thing. The other thing about this that's important is that this is a strong Republican district. And so you have to ask yourself the question, what is the significance of this to the Democratic Party when they've turned a blind eye to other races that were probably more winnable in cheaper marketing markets, cheaper television markets, and races that were not such a stronghold for the Republican Party, but yet they poured everything they possibly could. I mean, they threw, all the way down to free Lyft rides. They threw every dime they could into this race, and we'll see if they are able to flip the sixth. What we do not need are these pride I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. Bragging rights. We don't need to win races for bragging rights. There's nothing more significant about this seat other than the fact that they can pull it from a Republican, right? But there's nothing so significant about this seat as opposed to the previous races, special elections that the Democratic Party did not pour any money into. And so it does beg the question, why would the Democratic Party pour so much money into a race that they very possibly will lose by the end of the night? And even if they win, at what cost? And is it tenable? Is it something that we can replicate across the country? 857-600-0518 if you want to weigh in on the discussion. Let's take this first caller. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, this is Brianna Guy.
Hey, Brianna, how are you?
I'm good. When it comes to the Ossoff and, what's the woman's name? Kendall? I can't pronounce her name. The Republican?
Karen Handel.
Okay. Well, I do prefer, Ossoff to win, but it's not really going to make much of a difference. Yeah. When it comes to the House, but it might be an indication of what we might see in 2018, because, just how unpopular the Senate is, the Congress as a whole, how just this month alone, Trump's approval rating went up to 64%. So it could be an indication for what we can see in 2018, but I'm not
His negatives are up to around 64%. His approval is down to 36%. But yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. Go ahead and finish that thought.
Yeah. And my question is that this is a little off topic, but it's kind of something to do like just Trump as whole. Do you think Trump might have damaged the reputation of populist candidates? Like, let's say, because, he did run as a populist candidate. Everyone thought, we knew he was lying, but a good portion of the country believed him. They believed in him that he was going to give health care to everybody. He was going to end these wars. He was going to bring in infrastructure. He was going to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and all that, and Social Security. Right. But he's going back on everything that he promised to his voters. Yeah. So do you think that later on this is going to have, him running as a populist, but then turning his back on those supporters is going to have repercussions on other populist candidates that will stay true to their word? Like, let's say is Nina Turner or Bernie Sanders decides to run again, will that damage their reputation? Right. Because people won't believe them because they believe in Trump, but he went back on his word.
That's a good question. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for the question. I think Trump is not damaging populist candidates any more than establishment candidates want to damage populist candidates. The reality of it is a populist candidate who would really do exactly what he or she says is a threat to either establishment parties, right? So let's be clear. Trump hasn't done any more damage to the idea, especially not with the people. The people will always look for a populist leader. The average person, because who was I watching yesterday? I forget who actually gave me this information, but the average American makes less than $20 an hour. No, not just the average American, like 50% of Americans make less than $20 an hour. And when that's the reality for the majority, for half of Americans, they are going to always look for a populist leader who can help change their material condition. Either establishment, and I don't think this is a controversial statement. This is not a statement to attack the Democratic Party, or you could take it as a statement to attack the Democratic Party, but neither party really is interested in doing the things that is necessary to help the material condition of the majority of Americans. This is just based on their policies over the last 40 years, 50 years. And so that being the case, it's not so much that Donald Trump has sullied the idea of a populist candidate. It's the fact that the establishment will never give way to a populist candidate. Somebody's literally going to have to be the Manchurian populist, right? They're going to have to go in guns blazing, rhetorically speaking. That's a bad time to use that phrase, right? They're going to have to go in full-throated neoliberal and then get in and reign as and that's a horrible phrase, but you get the picture. Go in as a neoliberal, end up being a populist, because the establishment, either party, is never going to really allow it. That's the biggest threat, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is just a moron. 857-600-0518 if you want to weigh in on the discussion. I want to take a step back and talk a little bit more about the Philando Castile case. More information has come out since the trial has ended, and Geronimo Yanez has been found not guilty on all charges. Finally, we see the Dashcam video, and we're going to show the video to you now. Just a warning, it is very disturbing, not as graphic as it is disturbing from the vantage point where we're looking, but I want us to watch the video, and I want you to listen closely. Listen closely to Philando Castile informing the officer that he has a weapon and he has the right to carry it. Here, let's take a listen in.
Good. How are you? Good. Reason I put you over, your brake lights are out. So you only have one active brake light, and that's going to be your passenger side one. Your third brake light, which is up here on top, and then this one back here is going to be out. You have your license and insurance?
Right here.
I do have a firearm on me.
Don't reach for it then. Don't pull it out. Don't pull it out.
So if you listen closely, it was hard to hear, but if you listen closely, you can hear Philando saying, "Sir, I have to inform you that I have a firearm on me." Now listen. Anyone who wanted to harm a police officer would not make the declaration that I have a firearm on me and not do it in that manner. Let's just start there. It makes sense that if a person wanted to hurt a police officer, he will not say, "Sir, I have a fire. I have to inform you." He's using very precise language based on the law. Matter of fact, we have a picture of his license and his license to carry a pistol. And this is what was on his person. This is what was recovered from his body. At the bottom, you can see state of Minnesota permit to carry a pistol. So anyone who has a permit to carry a pistol understands that if they're stopped by the police and they're carrying their weapon, they have to inform the police officer that they are carrying their weapon. He went through this. Philando Castile went through this 52 other times. And he announced to the police officer that he had a weapon. He said, "Sir, I have to inform you that I have a weapon on me. And then the officer says, don't go for it. And you can hear Castile saying, I'm not reaching for it. But yet and still, this coward who should never have been on the police force in the first place drew his weapon and shot Philando Castile to death. This is not where the story ends. Actually, there's a couple of tweets. I want to pull up the first tweet on your screen from a reporter who got access, Tony Webster, got access to some of the documents. And this is the day after Yanez shot Philando Castile. A police officer manager emailed the entire department to say a Ferguson, Missouri cop called to give support. And then you can see the email. He said in the email, I wanted to let everyone know that an officer from Ferguson PD called and wanted to extend his support. Yeah, that's exactly what we need, is we need the support from Ferguson Police Department. But that lets you know, that shows you the mindset of brothers in arms. I guess that's what they think of themselves. And then the next shot shows you, the next image shows you Yanez after he has killed Philando Castile, and he still has Castile's bloodied insurance card in his pocket, according to this tweet from Tony Webster. And you can see on his wristband, police lives matter. What does that matter? It matters. It shows you the disposition, the mindset that he has going into this. Because as we all know, police lives matter was not a statement in the face of oppression, the oppression of police officers. Police lives matter and blue lives matter only came about as a way of pushing back against Black lives matter. It was a way of trying to halt a movement that was speaking out against police violence. And instead, they came up with police lives matter. So as innocuous as it may seem, and as benign as it may seem, it's actually a very direct statement of antipathy towards Black Lives Matter. So this should let you know, between Ferguson reaching out to help them, right, and then they're passing it around the department as if, you know, this is definitely something we want to, hey, we're getting love from Ferguson, and this police lives matter business, it shows you the mindset and the culture of policing agencies across the United States of America. And this is why I push back so hard against these ACLU types. And again, I'm a member of the ACLU, but then there's some of us who take it to the next level, right? Those who really, I'm going to stop there because I can't really go down that train of thought. But there are some people that I know and that many of you may be aware of who want to declare that the police officers are not racist. And, okay, no kidding. We can go through and look at every police officer, and no, not every police officer is racist. But what we have is a racist institution. The racism is institutionalized. It's in the culture. It's in their demeanor. It's in what's passed down from the senior officer to the junior officer. It's what's passed down generationally inside of policing agencies. And it creates a culture that in and of itself is systemically racist. And so it doesn't matter if the individual is Black, white, Hispanic. It doesn't matter if the individual is racist. What matters is the entire construct, the entire framework, and the entire way of thinking of policing agencies across the country. That's what matters. And that's where you see the grossest examples of systemic racism. So it's completely irrelevant if this officer is in it by himself racist. What you saw in that video is a reaction to the fear of Blackness. That's what you saw. And that fear of Blackness does not come overnight. It comes through generations of propaganda against the Black community enshrined in our policing agencies. Best personified by the wristband that says police lives matter. Yes, police lives matter. They've always mattered. They've always mattered more than the lives of the victims that they killed. There's never been a systemic oppression of police officers. Therefore, there is no need for the Police Lives Matter wristband except to throw off on Black Lives Matter. And this is not where the police officers actually stopped. They went one step further, and they issued a search warrant for the girlfriend of Philando Castile. and they issued for access to Diamond Reynolds. Access, here's a copy of the search warrant. It's a little hard to read, but this is a search warrant to get access to Diamond Reynolds' Facebook page. And they wanted to get access to her Facebook page to see if they could find any acts of criminality. And so now they're looking for a way to destroy the reputation of the woman who broadcasted the death of her boyfriend on Facebook Live, because they knew how damning that video was. And so they did exactly what every policing agency and media outlet does in this event. They try to find damning information on the individual, find a way that they can destroy the reputation of the person who's going to be a witness or the most outspoken person on an issue, and they try to destroy the character of that person. And so in this case, they wanted to get a search warrant to find anything and everything they could on her Facebook page. And then Facebook, thankfully, rejected it. Or Facebook pushed back on it long enough. You could bring it up on the screen. This is a letter from Scott Mueller from the department, and then you have it's to Gavin Korn from Facebook. At the bottom, I'm going to start at the bottom because this is actually a reply to what's at the bottom. On the bottom of this email chain, he said, "Hi, Scott. Our current concern is that we are obligated to respond to your warrant by tomorrow per Minnesota law. If you are willing to extend that period, it should be possible, but we will want to lock that down quickly. We will have a file in motion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have a position on this?" So this is just a minor pushback. And then Scott Mueller actually said that, well, it's going to be likely that we're going to rescind this warrant. And ultimately, that's what they did, because Facebook pushed back on it and would not give them access to it, even though they had a search warrant. And because ultimately, and for Facebook, this is just a matter of their policies, right? Facebook clearly isn't taking a stand on this, but the result is actually what it worked out for the best here. Because what the police department wanted to do was to smear Diamond Reynolds in order to protect their officer. That's what they wanted to do. That's what they attempted to do. And thankfully, based on Facebook policies, they could not get access to it. Or rather, they pushed back enough times to make the department rescind their request for access. It doesn't matter if the individual officer or officers are black, white, Hispanic. Doesn't matter their race, ethnicity, doesn't matter their religion, it doesn't matter if they're racist. What matters is how they perceive the community that they serve. And how they perceive the community that they serve is based on the culture of that police department. And that culture in that police department is based on years, generations worth of misinformation, information, propaganda, biased statistics, all of it amounting to systemically oppressing, systemic racism. It amounts to systemic racism. And it amounts to a fear of blackness that unfortunately has led to the death of so many African Americans, black Americans. And it has led to the acquittal of so many police officers who are guilty as hell. 857-600-0518. Let's take this caller. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Hi.
Hi. What's your name?
So, my name is Tony. I'm in Austin, Texas.
What's on your mind, Tony?
So I was thinking about the Ossoff thing, but, you know, hearing you talk about Philando Castile, I had a big question about that because I don't understand. It's been, you know, the verdict isn't even a little bit cold, and they've released this footage. And I don't know if it was an open records request or, you know, they've done such a good job of keeping it from the public until immediately after the verdict. Like, I don't see how they could possibly be doing this for any other reason but to specifically antagonize the community, right? Like why else would they do it? I mean, if they kept it cold for so long, couldn't they just leave it for another year, 2 years until people aren't thinking about Philando Castile anymore? Like, why right after the verdict, then they release it? It's like, almost vindictive in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I was wondering, I was curious as to how quickly, what made them get it out so quickly. I think that's actually a reasonable take. It may be the result of some freedom of information request and they couldn't get it prior to the end of the trial. But the truth of the matter is, if the community had seen, well, actually, no, let me take this back. I was getting ready to be naive and say that if the community actually saw this video, it's very possible that it could have muddied the jury pool, and actually they would have come back with a guilty verdict, but that still would not have changed the verdict. So there's really no reason that they would not have put this out in the first place. And now that it's coming out, it's really just a slap in the face of the community. I agree with you 100% there. Thanks so much for the call. 857-600-0518 if you want to weigh in on the conversation. Our police officers are, let me choose my words carefully here. I'm gonna take a deep breath and choose my words carefully here. And actually, I'm gonna talk about this next story. Let's start here. Charlene and Lyles, I mentioned this last night briefly. We have a great deal more detail into the killing of Charlene and Lyles, a 30-year-old pregnant woman, several months pregnant. She, according to her family, only weighed about 90 pounds. And so being about 4 months pregnant, I believe, and weighing 90 pounds, the officers who shot and killed her, this is a picture of her. The officers who shot and killed her had to have known that she was pregnant. There's no way that she is that small and that far along in her pregnancy, and the officers could not tell. The officers also knew that Charlene had dealt with mental health issues. They knew that, and the way we know that is because of this first clip. You can hear them laughing about the fact that she had mental issues. Let's take a listen.
I've been out here for another TV with her son. I don't know if you were here. Yeah. So this gal, she was the one making all these weird statements about how her and her daughter are going to turn into wolves. And this is on the 5th. She just took a turn, so I'm like, I'm going to go up there. Because they said she was fine at first, and then they were inside with her. Had this giant pair of scissors and would put them down, and then but she had a birth. Yeah, that birth occurred.
So there they are joking about the fact that they know her and they've been there before, and when they came before, they realized that she was saying very strange statements about she and her son turning into wolves, and then they laughed about it. So they're fully aware of there's some mental health issues going on there. And her family confirmed that she's dealing with some mental health issues. So what happened in this case is that she called in, she believed that there was a burglary. She believed that some things had been stolen, so she called the police. And there's some good reporting by my colleague at the progressivearmy.com, Andre Roberge. And he pointed out that usually one officer is sent to respond to reports of a burglary. But because of a flag on Lyle's case due to an incident in the previous week that involved a weapon, caused the Seattle Police Department to send 2 officers. So they had already went apprehensively to respond to her call. Now, remember, the incident the previous week could very well be the incident that the officers are laughing about here, where she had a large set of scissors and she started saying stuff about turning into wolves, clearly demonstrating that she was mentally ill and that they were going into a similar situation with a pregnant woman, 4 months pregnant, 90 pounds. So they get there and they begin asking her about what was stolen, and you could hear, we'll play the next clip. It's viewed from the dash cam. That's where the audio was patched into, but you could hear them asking her about the burglary, what was taken. I think she mentioned an Xbox or something that she believed was stolen. And then very quickly, it escalates from asking about the burglary to them killing her. Let's take a listen in.
She said an Xbox was taken. And then what was it exactly?
Now, actually, do we still have that other video where they're in the door, in the hallway? Do we still have that in the system? Because here's the thing. The police officers were there to respond to her call about a burglary that she was concerned about. And they knew she was mentally ill or dealing with some mental health issues. And they also knew that previously she had a large set of scissors, and that's why they sent 2 officers. They're yelling for her to get back, but they are in her residence, and they're in the doorway. I'm going to show you this clip, and we actually could just play it now. They're in the hallway, they're in the doorway. They had full ability for themselves to get the hell back. If anyone could have gotten back, they could have. If they were so afraid of a 90-pound, 4-month pregnant woman armed with a set of scissors, and this is right there, as you can see, that's where they could have taken 2 or 3 steps back themselves. It's not like she had a weapon that she could have shot at them, but instead, they felt so threatened by a 90-pound, 4-month pregnant woman that they killed her. What good are these officers going to be when they're faced with real threats, right? If they can't handle these types of, how many times, I'm all over the place, and probably rightfully so, how many times have people that have have a problem with mental health issues, how many times have they ended up dead when the police are called? How many times have police officers used a level of force in response to a situation that could have been de-escalated by them just walking the hell back? I'm reminded of the clip of the officer, I believe, in the UK. If it was not the UK, I'd be surprised if it was here in the United States, who literally was being chased down by a man with a damn machete. And he backed up and backed up and backed up and backed up all the way to the point where he backed and fell down on the ground and still did not shoot this man. Man lunging at him with a machete, still did not kill him. But the first reaction for these police officers in the incident with Philando Castile and in the incident with Charlena Lyles, is to shoot and kill. 857-600-051. I can't really say much more about this. Is that caller still on the line? Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and a question? You're live on the air.
Yeah, how you doing? My name is Kennard Williams. I'm out of Phoenix, Arizona.
How's it going, man? What's on your mind?
And brother, man, I am terrorized for what's going on in this country, man.
Yeah.
The only way we as a people is going to get anything done, anything accomplished on this matter, is an eye for an eye, brother. I mean, it's always nonviolent after we've been killed by violence. See, don't nobody want to talk about this part, because when brothers in the streets get into it and somebody kills one of the brothers, somebody might retaliate. But we don't do retaliation on the police officers when they do things like this too.
Well, you know why that is, though. You know why that is? It's because I mean, if they're killing us now, being nonviolent, if they're killing us now being, just taking a knee at protests, if they're killing us, what do you think they'll do if we pull a gun? They're looking and they're waiting for an opportunity to blast us, and I hear the sentiment, I hear the frustration. And this is what I talked about with a caller a few weeks ago. The frustration in your voice, I identify with, and I understand. And it feels you're at the point, what Dr. King say, a riot is the language of the unheard. And this is what happens when the community and when these policing agencies don't hear us. When the policing agencies do not hear us and politicians do not hear us, this gives room for people who want to take an eye for an eye. The reason I don't say take an eye for an eye is because they've got more guns than us. We get more guns, they have tanks. We get tanks, they have an Air Force. They get Air Force, they got nukes. There's no winning in that. There's no way to win. And there are plenty of people who are waiting on us to get violent so that they would have an excuse to kill us. So where does that leave us in terms of solution? I don't know. I just know that I'm not, I just know without a shadow of a doubt that there is an entire group of people waiting for us to get violent so that they can put us down faster than they're putting us down being nonviolent. I don't know what to tell you in terms of a solution other than we have to keep fighting this. We have to keep fighting this. We have to keep winning it in any way. Well, we're not winning. We have to try to win it in any way that we can, but not with an eye for an eye, because they're ready for an eye for an eye. They're literally sitting, waiting with their guns ready, waiting for an excuse to shoot us. And anybody, and that's why I don't condone it on my show, is because anybody who promotes that is sending you to your death, basically. Let's just be clear. You're sending people to a certain death. Remember the guy in Dallas, the guy who had that level of frustration? He ended up killing 5 police officers. And you know what? All it did was he killed 5 police officers. He got killed, and it set our movement back because they used that as a tool to undermine the valid protest, to undermine the valid approach, to undermine the people who want to help us and want to get this ball moving in the right direction. They used it every way possible to undermine us. And so where our protests are already challenged and ignored or sabotaged, when we had that incident in Dallas and then later on in Baton Rouge, both of those were used to undermine our efforts in every way imaginable. And so I don't support an eye for an eye because we don't have enough guns. And if we got enough guns, they got tanks. I'll go through it again. We got tanks, they get an Air Force. We get planes, they get nukes. It's not a fight that we can win in the United States of America. 857-600-0518. This is a disturbing story about a Muslim teen who was killed in what they're calling a road rage incident. Many people are looking at this as a hate crime. She was now reported, according to BuzzFeed, that it's a possibility that 17-year-old Nabra Hassanin was potentially also raped. She was beaten, kidnapped, and killed near her Virginia mosque on this past Sunday. They found her body in a pond in London County, Virginia on Sunday afternoon. It was a few miles away from where the person who killed her, Darren Torres, chased and attacked her group of friends, a group of about 15 other teenagers. And that's why they're calling it a road rage incident, because it stemmed from an incident during a car chase. The autopsy, according to BuzzFeed, reports that she suffered from blunt force trauma to her upper body. And they're now considering that she may have also been raped. This is a very disturbing story for many reasons. Besides the clear tragedy to the family and the community there, the loved ones of Nabra Hassanin, the compounded with the fact that Darren Martinez Torres was an undocumented immigrant. And so you have this collision of forces where a hate crime has been committed, and the issue of undocumented immigrants has come to light because of this. And I was listening to an interview this morning, and they were discussing this story. And one of the things that they pointed out in the story was the need to be able to address this issue, both as a hate crime, but also not allow this issue, because it was an undocumented immigrant, to be used as a means of attacking every other undocumented immigrant. And this is a very difficult nexus to actually even have the conversation in, because what do you say to the family who actually lost their daughter, their loved one, their friends? And this is the difficult part of when everything involves politics, yes, but when politics gets inserted into tragedies like this, it makes a complicated situation even more complicated. A57. I want to leave that story alone. I want to leave that story alone because it's such a tragic story, and it compounds so many different things. It combines so many different issues of potentially she was raped. That hasn't been confirmed, but BuzzFeed has a lead on that story, and that's why they put it out. She was brutalized because of a quote unquote road rage incident. Her religion came into play into it, and it's just a collision of so many horrible factors that make the story so tragic. And so our hearts go out to the family and the friends of Nabra, and we sincerely hope justice is served in this case. 857-600-0518. We're going to get a update soon on the race. According to 538.com, the race is going to go late into the night, and it's very possible that the leads can switch going in. And again, it's an interesting race. We do want to a couple things that we didn't mention previously is the amount of support that she's getting from President Trump. Karen Handel is getting from President Trump. Now, he did not campaign for her directly, in the sense he did not go into Georgia, the 6th district, to try to help her out, but he did send out a series of tweets supporting her and attacking John Ossoff. And I want to bring those up. This is the first one. The Democrats want to stop tax cuts, good health care, and border security. Their Obamacare plan is dead, with 100% increases in P's. I'm not sure what P's is here. Vote now for Karen H. Premiums. Okay, probably premiums. There you go. Democrat John Ossoff, who wants to raise your taxes to the highest level and is weak on crime and security, doesn't even live in the district. And this is the last tweet of support from Donald Trump. Karen Handel for Congress. She will fight for lower taxes, great health care, strong security, a hard worker who will never give up. Vote today. Remember Karen Handel last week or 2 weeks ago, she said that she does not believe in a livable wage. So, you know, political spin, political doublespeak is masterful. She's going to fight for lower taxes. Sure. OK. At what cost? Right. She's going to fight for lower taxes at the cost of a living wage. She does not believe that Americans are entitled to working a job and getting a livable wage. In other words, she wants you to be able to work 40 hours a week and still need to depend on food stamps. But oh, don't forget, they're going to get rid of your food stamps, too. That's Karen Handel, and that's who Donald Trump is supporting. No surprise there. But the race is still close, 53% to 47. Handel actually is spreading. The margin is spreading. So it's very possible that she's going to win, probable that she's going to win at this point. And it's $22 million sunk into this race from the Democratic Party. All right. A couple of other stories before we get out of here. So a couple months back, Donald Trump took all the credit for a Ford plant not going to Mexico. And it was like the first week in office, and he really made a lot of hay over it. It really made it seem as though his mere presence alone changed the destiny for all of these Ford plant workers. Well, turns out that the plant is no longer going to Mexico because it's now going to China. So they're moving its production of its Focus to the Focus model car to China after production at its Michigan plant ends in 2019. The whole deal was to keep that exact plant in Michigan from going to Mexico, but now it's going to China. So it estimates that that move is going to save them $500 million in production costs to produce the car. And this is clearly, you know, a labor issue. This is the issue of how much can they save on labor by moving it out of Michigan. So of course they could save hundreds of millions of dollars if they move the production plant overseas, or previously they wanted to move it to Mexico. So this is Donald Trump taking credit for it. Back on January 9th, he said, 2017, he said China's labor costs are lower than Mexico's, but shipping costs for the small cars will rise. And then he began to take credit for this deal not going to Mexico. So this is two things here. Number one, I'm always fascinated at the fact that people will willingly accept any politician, for that matter, taking credit for something that had absolutely nothing to do with them. And Donald Trump came on the scene, and the very first thing he said was, well, you know, I helped negotiate and save this plant. And we knew that wasn't true in the first place, right? We knew that the ball had been in motion. The decisions had been made long before Donald Trump became president. It just so happened that he became president on the week that Ford made this announcement. But I guess he didn't read the fine print, because now it's going to China. Here's the other side of the equation that's worth discussing. Not how long, there's always going to be a race to the bottom for labor. Labor will always suffer at the hands of multinational corporations who can easily take their operations uprooted from the United States. We've been doing this for probably 50, 60 years at this point, uprooting it from the United States and taking it somewhere where they can get pennies on the dollar for labor. This is nothing new. And in fact, this is right par for the course for the Republican Party and a portion of the Democratic Party. This is exactly what they see the world as. This is their world view. So back to the question of the first caller tonight, they're asking, will Donald Trump not being a true populist undermine a true populist? The reality of it is Donald Trump was never a true populist to begin with. Donald Trump just had the language of anger, which people conflated to be the language of populism. But Donald Trump has always been about multinationalism. He's always been about multinational corporations, outsourcing, getting his work done overseas for the cheapest dollar possible. That's always been Donald Trump. And for people to have believed that he was anything more than that is astonishing to me. It's astonishing to me because there's nothing in his history that suggests that he would do anything other than what's in the best interest for the bottom line of his company and, by proxy, other companies. So all of the celebrations that took place immediately after he became president, they're all going out the window now. And I wonder who actually paid attention long enough to realize that Donald Trump took credit for something that he did not do. And now the thing that he said that he did actually didn't happen. And now they're going to China. Speaking of other ways, Donald Trump is screwing America. In this case, we're getting screwed with the help of the Republican Party in the Senate. According to Politico, the fate of Obamacare repeal is not yet certain, but the hallmarks, the way that this process has been carried out has been so opaque, so authoritarian in the sense that they have kept this conversation from the general public throughout the entire process of the senatorial process here. And now we're getting to the point where Republicans are turning on it because they realize what's potentially getting ready to come out is even worse than what the House representatives put out in their version of the American Health Care Act. There are several reports that saying that the CBO score for this is going to actually be even more negative than what the House version of this bill actually had. And so the whip, Mitch McConnell's whip, is saying that they are short of the 50 votes, but they're looking as though they're going to go ahead and push for the vote anyway. There are 7 Republicans who are saying that they are not going, or they're not on board yet for the bill. So there's a possibility that this bill will come up for a vote and go down in flames, which is a fascinating spin in one way specific. It's fascinating because they're going through a lot to keep this as clandestine as possible, to keep it away from the public as much as possible. And I'm wondering if they're doing that because they want to go through the motions to pass this legislation without taking the political hits for this legislation. In other words, they want to go through the motions. They know that they're not going to pass it. They already know about 7 senators, Republican senators, are going to vote against it. Of course, all the Democrats are going to vote against it. And so they know this legislation is pretty much dead on arrival, but they have to go through the motions because if they don't go through the motions, then they will be attacked. But the question is, who are they going to be attacked by? Because the bill is so unpopular, just even bringing it up is undermining them. But they have to do the Potomac two-step. They have to go through the motion and act as though that they're going to at least give it its day on the Senate floor, knowing full well that it probably won't pass. And so if they could do that without actually having the public see what's in the bill, then they could say, well, we voted for it, it didn't pass, and we can move on. So I guess it actually makes sense. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to go through the motions. They're trying to go through the motions without the political price of letting the public see what's actually in this version of Trumpcare, which, according to some insiders, is worse than the House version of it. The danger here is that this bill could still pass. Everything that we just said, the bill can still pass, and we could end up with a piece of legislation that's going to knock 24 million more Americans off of their health care, and a piece of legislation that's going to reshape a large portion of our entire economy without anyone having seen it. No one has seen it. In fact, Senator John McCain said, no one in America has seen it. I don't know if it was tongue in cheek, but it was funny. He said, no one in America has seen it, but I bet the Russians have seen it. So, whatever that's worth. 857-600-0518 if you want to weigh in on the conversation. All right. I've got a lot of other stories here that I've actually been putting off. I'm going to go through all of these stories on tomorrow morning in our morning analysis. So if you want to be a part of the morning analysis, go to Patreon. Yes, I'm plugging my show again. I'm plugging my Patreon account again because we need your support. Go to patreon.com/the BPD show. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the Supreme Court decision on offensive trademarks. Someone suggested that now I can get an offensive trademark. I should go get the GOPwantstoKillYou.com and trademark it. We're going to talk about the attack in Brussels, and we'll also talk about the U.S. military shot down an Iranian made drone in Syria and the escalating tensions in Syria. So we have a full slate of what we'll talk about tomorrow in our morning analysis. On tomorrow, we'll be joined by Professor Matt Sinkowitz from Boston College. We'll be discussing the news of the day. And again, don't forget that next week I will be on vacation for 2 weeks, but we will have a full-hour podcast each night. No video, just audio. And if you want to get a part of that, come on over to patreon.com/the BPD show. Last but not least, the last thing that I want to talk about really is this strange place that we're in right now. We're in a strange place. We're in a strange place of competing forces. We're in a strange place of competing ideologies. We're in a strange place of understanding where progressivism actually is. Where are we on this progressive spectrum? And what I'm finding more now than ever is that, everyone who says that they're progressive, not necessarily progressive. And then the definition of what it is to be progressive is so broad. It's so broad, and in some sense it's so narrow because it depends on who you're talking to. But the reason I want to bring it up is because I think it's vitally important that we not pigeonhole ourselves into a corner of being completely irrelevant. And what I mean by that is that it is extremely important that if we see a vision for America that we think is better for America, what good is it having that vision for America if you can't do anything about it but complain about it on social media? I get that we need to have the conversations, we need to have the arguments, but if our ideas are genuinely better, if what we think America should do is genuinely better, then surely we should be out there doing something about it above and beyond the contrarian type rhetoric that we have online. And I feel that sometimes we limit ourselves to our experiences on social media, and we limit our activism to the world of social media. And what I mean, and why I'm bringing this up is because in that world, we have marginalized in some ways. We're marginalizing ourselves to the point where we are not going to actually be able to do anything in the real world. In the real world, it requires organizing. And this is why one thing that you would never see me do is criticize organizers, the people who actually go out there and get it done, the people who take it upon themselves to go raise money so that they can organize and go knock door to door and canvass. Those are the people who make it happen. But if we have pushed ourselves into the corner where all we are doing is refining our ideas and never really organizing on behalf of our ideas, then what good is our idea in the first place? What good is this vision for America if we are so esoteric and so philosophical and so contrarian that we cannot organize more than 10 people without devolving into another argument that divides us up into groups of 2? At some point, we have to realize that having a vision and having a better idea and having it in theory is not enough. And we have to be able to cross that threshold from being the person who dreams about a better version of America to being the people who help bring about a better America. And if we believe that that better America is based on progressivism, then we have got to rally people to our side. We have got to convince people that what we want is better. Our ideas are better. This is why it's better. And now not only have I convinced you that it's better, here's how we can implement our ideas on the national stage. Without that, we will forever be signifying. We will forever be talking about what's a good idea. Ultimately, you'll just be a commentator like me. And I, for one, don't want you to just be a commentator like me. I want you to get out there and organize and do something. Do something, because we need more people to go out and do than we need people to sit behind a desk and talk about what needs to be done. You don't need 100 Ben Dixons. We need about 100,000 organizers that will go out there and change the world for what we believe. But if we limit ourselves to and never take root on the national stage and the international stage, we need leaders. We need you to get from behind your computer and go out and organize for those ideas. We'll see you tomorrow night.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support the Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.